Welcome to the IRS Whisperer Podcast. This podcast is designed for tax professionals with a spin toward IRS representation. My name is Dan Henn, and I'm a CPA CTR. New episodes will drop weekly on Thursdays. Each week we'll be giving you exciting material to help the tax pro in their tax practice. That's assuming you can say exciting and taxes in the same sentence. On the IRS Whisperer Podcast, each episode will cover 3 different areas of a tax practice. We will present the marketing moment, which will cover various topics in marketing or sales to help you generate more clients and revenue in your business. The world of practice management will give you suggestions on how to better run your tax practice. And we will also cover our technical time that will cover some of the latest changes or tips and tricks to help you in handling your IRS representation cases. So I'm so glad you are here and hope you enjoy the show. Now, on to today's episode. Welcome to the show. Today I want to talk about, and this will be a 2-part series. I'm going to talk first about client boundaries. Some things that you guys need to think about, work on, do, employ in your practice. And if you do these things, and a few of the things that I'm going to talk about, and it always comes back to here, your mindset. If you don't have the right mindset, then you're going to find these things very difficult. And you guys have heard the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over, expecting a different result. And if you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting the same results. Okay. Sometimes it happens where you keep doing the same things and sometimes things change. Technology changes, certain aspects of your life, your routine, things change a little bit and it might make it better, could also make it worse. So here are some things that I want you to talk about or to talk to you about in regard to client boundaries. Okay, some things that if you put this in place, and I'm going to first say this, trust me when I say it, your clients aren't going to think you're horrible if you start doing some of these things in your practice. Okay, and especially when you put it out there that, hey, I'm doing these to help give better customer service. And if you do that, then hopefully you're giving better customer service in terms of what you're trying to do. You're providing more timely work, you're scheduling time that it fits within your schedule and hopefully within theirs. We bend over backwards too much for people. We accommodate people too much. They don't accommodate us, and they expect us to jump through hoops. And you are training your clients to teach, to push you on those things. And if you push back, you're teaching them a new standard. Okay. I have a coach friend of mine that he puts it, you are don't walk past the standard that you won't accept. Okay. So setting client boundaries are creating standards in your practice. So let me give you an example. Having your cell phone. Okay. Everybody has one of these, or most people do, and most of us have a smartphone, although I do know some people. I have a good friend of mine, he still has a flip phone, but we have the phone. And even the flip phones still accept texts, although they're very hard to write text from. But we all have those devices. Those devices should be for us to communicate with them, for us to communicate with our family and friends. It's not for clients to communicate with us at all hours. Okay. I made the mistake when I first started my practice, like most people do, is I gave out my cell phone number. I felt like that's what I needed to do to do good customer service. I did that for the first 3 years. I ended up hiring a coach / mentor that I worked with early on and when I went out on my own. And he told me to take my cell phone away. So I took it off of my business cards and nobody ever asked me for my cell phone. Nobody, not one client, not one new client anyway, because a bunch of the existing clients still had it. And then the second part of it becomes don't answer it after hours. Okay. When the client calls at 7:00 at night, when a client calls at 7:00 in the morning, or God forbid they call at 2 a.m, don't answer it. Don't look at the text. That's one of the reasons why you just don't do it. Now, For many of us, the cell phone is our phone. We don't have another phone. We don't have a desk phone. You work from home. You work remotely somewhere in another office. And so we don't have the desk phone with a desk phone number. So go out and use a service like Google Voice or something similar that you can then forward to your cell phone, because I that's what I do now. I don't have a physical office. I don't have a desk phone, and yet was able to keep the phone numbers that I had in my firm, and I ported them over to Google Voice, and now Google Voice can not only accept phone calls, take voicemails, receive text messages, and I can send them from my phone, from my computer. So it all forwards there. I can answer it if I want. I typically don't answer the phone, which is a whole separate discussion. Don't give out your cell phone. Okay. Give out another number. Go get a Google Voice number and have it forward to your cell phone. Give that number. And then people think they're calling the office number. You can set a voicemail message for it, which again is another separate discussion that I'll talk about, is how to properly make a good voicemail message. But if you don't give out your cell phone, and especially you don't answer it outside of your normal work hours. So if your office hours are 9 to 5, then that is the only time you answer that phone. Okay. Otherwise it goes to voicemail, because when you start answering the phone, unless you absolutely need it, there's going to be that time where you're working late and you've been waiting on this client to call and give you an answer to a question. Yeah, then sometimes you're going to do that. But for the most part, if you're not expecting the call, don't answer the phone. Okay. Especially sometimes during the work hours. Now, obviously, if you're the me, myself, and I, and we can debate this all day long, I don't answer the phone. When I had staff, now when I don't have staff, I don't answer the phone. Okay. If it's important enough, they'll leave a message. And more often than not, people do. Like, I got a call from a guy sending out tax lien letters, and I got a call from a guy from Alabama who's who just left his message and his phone number and asked if we would call. Usually I will have my wife call him just to find out what they're looking for, because if they're looking for tax prep, I don't do just tax prep. I only handle representation cases now in my firm, and I don't take every case either, because I can be more picky and choosy. Now, the next one I want to talk about is email. And I'll talk about email a little bit with texting because it's along the same thing. And one of the things that I want to talk to you guys about is in texting, or let me just say email and texting. When people send an email, when people send a text, they are typically expecting a response like that, lickety split. They want that answer back. And it doesn't have to be that way. We've let it happen to be that way. I put a signature in my signature of my email. It says, effective immediately, I will be returning emails and phone calls. Should actually add text, but emails, phone calls, and text from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 4 to 6 every day, because that's what it said. It says in my text, in my email. Now, the reason you do this is so that you can have that focus time. Because if you open your email first thing in the day, you're just dealing with all the emergencies, all of the different things that happen. And if you're like me, when I was doing that, I would literally, it'd be 11, 11:30, sometimes even 12 o'clock before I'm like, what the heck did I do? I didn't do anything this morning, but dealing with all these other little emergencies. And the weird thing is, they're still going to be there when I go and open it later if I wait till 12 o'clock. Okay. And I can just deal with them later in my afternoon, or for that matter, even have somebody else triage them in my firm. Sometimes there's a lot of questions that you get that somebody else can answer, another staff person, an admin person that you have. And the morning time for most people is the time where we are the most energized, the most focused. That's when you should be doing your best quality work, whether it's reviewing a case, whether it's preparing a tax return or reviewing a tax return. It's time when you're working on some strategy for your future. You're creating, maybe create a podcast, maybe do create some videos, write a blog, do some other marketing, doing networking. Those are the times that you should be focused on doing just those. And if you've got a big project, let's say you're trying to write a book, okay, there's no better time than doing it in the morning. Focus on, if you could write for 3 hours, great. At least an hour to 30 minutes to an hour would be the best time. If you could do that in the morning, focus on doing that. And if you had that time, you can get those things done in a short amount of time. You could write a book in 30 days, in 90 days, if you just wrote 30 minutes to an hour a day doing that type of work. So the point is just keep your email closed and don't respond immediately, because when you start training your clients that not to expect an immediate response, then they know that they're not going to get immediate response. But have a good policy that when somebody answers the phone, maybe they get an auto reply that basically says, hey, we strive to return all phone calls, all emails within 24 to 48 hours. Then great. You're setting the expectations for them that don't expect an immediate response. And typically that's what's happening. Okay. Which then brings to the answering the phone. Okay. Again, I don't answer the phone. I stopped answering my phone on the end, unless it was somebody I absolutely knew that I needed to talk to. Then sometimes I'd pick up the phone, but I would not answer the phone at all. And my staff knew that I wasn't available. Okay, if they called within my block of hours where I'm supposed to be focusing on something else, then I'm not available. It's hey, sorry, Dan's not available, but you can send him an email. That's generally the faster way for him to reply. Now, what we would do is I would reply via email. I could send a calendar link if I felt like it was something that maybe it needed to have a phone conversation, or we'd go back and forth in an email. And if it was really a conversation where, okay, this is a little too much typing and we really needed to have a conversation, then I'd say, hey, let's schedule a time and call. Now, one side note in terms of having phone calls, when you actually do have calls with clients or people, start your conversation with hey, I've got 15 minutes for this call. Just wanted to touch base with you, wanted to talk to you, wanted to answer your questions, whatever it is. You start with the fact that, hey, it's a 15-minute conversation. It's a 45-minute. I've got an hour before my next meeting. Whatever it is, if you set the expectations up front, then it's amazing how most people actually watch the clock. They're the ones that remind you and say, oh, hey, I got one more question. I know we only got a couple minutes left. Then it's better that way to keep your time. Because if you don't control your time, if you don't care about your time, then nobody else is going to. Okay. They're going to abuse you and abuse your time. Now, when it comes to scheduling appointments, okay, so doing all of this, you can schedule appointments on your schedule. Okay, I talked about a couple of weeks ago about time blocking. A time blocking is when you work on certain things on a specific day. For me, Mondays and Fridays was when I worked on my technical work. Tuesday, Thursday was when I had client meetings. Wednesday afternoon, I could have client meetings. Now, when you schedule your appointments, try to do your best to have them back to back. So it's not because if you ever called the doctor, in fact, I was just calling the mechanic yesterday. We were talking about, they were trying to schedule me to come in and do my oil change tire rotation. And so they tell me what they have available. Okay. I'm looking for something in a certain window and they tell me what I have available. So if you use a tool like a Calendly or Acuity, something like that, where you can actually set those parameters that, hey, try to focus it on certain days, certain times. Okay. And maybe even you can put, what do they call, buffers before and after in terms of the calendar. So if you wanted a 15-minute before and after buffer, then if there wasn't enough time to fill that next block, then it doesn't show them that time. And not only that, but the calendar links actually work nicely in the fact that they get to schedule it. We don't have this email back and forth. Right there alone, that saves time, or on a phone conversation. Now, a couple other things that I want to talk about here today, and like I said, I'll talk more about some of these others next week because there's a bunch more that we can talk about. But a couple of things in regards to payments. And one is if you have a client who, especially if they owe you money already, okay, if they owe you money and they're not making payments, then stop all work. Because if you continue to work, you're sometimes, again, most clients are going to be good about it. They're going to pay you eventually. But we're not in the business of doing IOUs. You technically really shouldn't have any accounts receivable if you're doing things correctly. Get people to pay you in advance. Get them to pay at least a 50% retainer upfront. Okay, so they have skin in the game. Get them to pay some flat retainer if you're doing work on an hourly basis or a project basis. Get them to pay something in advance. And then once you've used that, work stops until that is replenished. Okay. Because if you do that, then you don't have accounts receivable. I know there were times where my accounts receivable would be a good size accounts receivable. And not only that, but if you're not watching it and you're not going after it quickly, because once 30 days goes by, then 60 days, and then you get past 6 months, it's virtually impossible to try and collect on it. And it's not going to be worth it for you to go to hire some collections agency to go after somebody. So don't waste your time. Do work that you don't get paid for. So make sure you should have these written collections policies so that you don't do all this extra work. Okay. Everybody should be in the black, not in the red in terms of the balances, meaning that you basically owe them the work, that not that they owe you money. Okay. That's one. The other one that I want to end with on this today is rush work. And rush work really becomes a procrastinator problem, is really what it is. Okay. Somebody who brings you their stuff at the last minute and says, here's my tax return stuff on April the 10th. And they want you to get it done on April the 15th. I set a policy that said, hey, if it wasn't in my office by the third Friday in March, then it wasn't getting done. It was going to be extended. Okay. It will be extended. Not that it may be, it will be extended. Now, I was willing to do it if they're willing to pay a rush fee. And the rush fee for me usually was a minimum of 50% of whatever the fee I was charging, I would normally charge for that service. So last time I was preparing tax returns on a regular basis, that was $900. That means you want to pay me $1,350, then by all means, we'll work it in and get it done. But I would then add that if you can wait till after the 15th, actually, I would even say maybe after May 1st, because I would like to take some time for vacation or just some away time from the office after April 15th. But if you could wait till after May 1st or even sometimes May 15th, then I'll charge you the regular rate and not charge you this extra fee. And then I wouldn't charge them to prepare or do the extension. And that same thing goes for those of you that are handling collections cases or even exam cases. So when somebody comes in, they bring you a notice or a document request, and it's coming from a revenue agent, revenue officer, and they want something now in a week. Okay. That's not your problem. That's their problem. Okay. Now, they want to hire you to be the representative, then you let them know, hey, if the revenue officer doesn't budge on this and wants to get this, you're going to have to pay the rush fee to get it done. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to pass that on. If you're going to bust your butt to get something done and somebody's going to try to abuse you with this, then you're well in your right to get compensated for that. Now, obviously, a lot of times when people hire me and we're under those types of circumstances, I will usually talk to the revenue officer. The revenue officer will usually give me 2, 3 weeks, maybe even as much as 4 weeks. I had one where I called and left a message and said, hey, I'm looking for an extra 60 days. He never responded. So by that, I had a de facto 60 days. In fact, by the time he called me again, because the client ended up procrastinating and bringing me more stuff, but it was probably closer to 90 days when that happens. Don't be afraid to push back on those types of things so that we can get those covered. Now, a couple other quick things that I wanted to talk about. One, again, comes back to a little bit of the mindset thing. Okay, I know we're all well intended. We're all human beings. We all try and do our best. Many of you have been to that concert, not a concert, the event, the conference. That's what I meant. Conference. You've bought a product, you've bought a coaching plan, been part of a membership, you start something new. It's like the first day of school. I always loved the first day of school. And then, of course, I never cared for the rest of them after that. You always have that anticipation, excitement. We had the new clothes, we had the new paper, the organizer, new pencils, fandangled pencils that they'd come out with. We'd always have all these things that we would really be excited about. And coming and attending a conference, and you hear a lot of different information. You learn new topics. You learn not only the technical side, but sometimes in talking with people or the speakers, instructors, they'll give you tips and tricks on how to do something better in your marketing, how to do something better in your practice management. But the problem is that once we are done, we're done. It's like we take the binder, we put the book, we put it on the bookshelf over there, and there it sits. And we never crack it open. We never do that. And if you want to, again, affect change in your life, in your practice, then you have to start doing some things differently. So think about on this focus time, and I'll talk about it on focus time on another episode because that is a very key concept that we need to. There's many other things that we can talk about from a time management productivity perspective, but the focus time is the time when you can do that kind of thing. Go pull that binder off the bench, off the shelf. Go read some things and say, oh, hey, I want to do that. Put that on your short list of things that you can focus on, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Maybe you do it once a week and you do that for a few weeks. And then you can actually start making changes. So employing new systems, employing automation, start using AI, doing all of these different types of things that it's amazing once I've started doing a lot of these things and setting aside some of these times. And for me, I've been learning to get up at this morning. I was up at 5:40 in the morning and I worked till 7. When then I started my day with my wife and talked with her and we had breakfast. I ended up working out. And then I came back to the desk and started doing some more work. It's important to have the right mindset, and you need to have the entrepreneur mindset, not the somebody who has a job mindset. Okay. You guys are running a business. If you're more than likely listening to this, you're a tax practitioner, you're either the me, myself, and I firm, or you have other people who work for you. You should be doing the things that sets you up for better success, things that take you out of doing some of the things in the weeds. Becoming a CEO is basically at the end of the day what you should be doing. You should be managing more. Not that you can't still do some of the technical stuff, handling a case, preparing or reviewing a return, doing the client contact. Not that you can't do that, but if you start employing all of these things, it'll give you more confidence. It'll, with that confidence, allows you to charge higher fees. And when you charge higher fees, then you can start employing more new technologies, hire new people, whether they're employees, contractors, virtual assistants, whatever it is that you want to do. And you will set yourself up for success. And not only that, but set your practice up so that you can now have a more valuable asset for when you're ready to hang up the cleats and retire, that you have something that you can actually sell and then enjoy some things in your retirement. Now, the last one thing I want to talk about is from a marketing perspective. So, from a marketing perspective, and the most recent issue of the Profitable Accountant for September 2025, that should be coming to those members that are watching this here probably by the middle of September. And it's going to be fun since most of you are going to be crazy in terms of trying to deal with the September 15th deadline upcoming. But work on webinars. So especially if you can learn how to use the likes of AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, using any of those different AI tools, that it can help you create a PowerPoint presentation. Not only can it create the list of the slide deck. And most of the time, the best thing is to have a concept, have three, no more than really three bullet points, maybe one picture, and then create that presentation. And it actually will create the PowerPoint presentation if you want to do that. And so when you create that, the thing that you're doing these webinars for, the nice thing about a webinar is you don't have to be on camera. So if you're not a camera person, which generally I haven't been, but I've learned to overcome that. Just like I didn't like to be the speaker in front of the room, but now I love it in terms of talking and teaching people material. But if you do a webinar, the webinars, if you teach the material, and when I say teach, what you're teaching them is the what, not the how. So you're teaching them, if you were to talk about tax planning, let's say, you're talking about what tax planning is, some of the ideas on how some things can help save people taxes. If you're talking to somebody who has a tax problem, you talk about some of the various different tools that the IRS has in their toolbox and how we can try to overcome them. We're not talking about, we talk about the liens, we talk about the levies and the seizures, we talk about what they are. We don't talk about how we get them removed. You go to fill out this form and fill this out, and we don't do that. Okay, nobody, you're not teaching people how to do your job. Okay, you're teaching them what the problems are and that you are the fixer of those problems. Okay, now keep in mind that a webinar is a marketing tool. So the more you can do these webinars, the more you can put them out there, especially if you can create them and make them free for people. Okay, because you also can charge for them, and you are well within your right to do that. Have a member portfolio folder or portal where people can log in and pay money, or it's available only for clients in terms of the repositories. Like, for example, when I teach a technical webinar, the recordings go in my membership portal, but I do not give replays to those people who buy classes outside of that. Okay. You show up live. If you're a member, you get access. Not only do you not have to pay extra to be on the webinar, but you can go back and rewatch it again if there's something that you thought you wanted to go back and listen to again. Webinars should be a part of your marketing. They should have a good call to action at the end. Hey, schedule a free strategy session. Schedule or go here to get this particular lead magnet. Go click this link to schedule a time with you. Do, any different thing like that in terms of the materials of what you're trying to do, because it can be lead generation, it can be for client retention, client education, it can be even for offering other services to your clients. So if you put something out on tax planning, as we're approaching here the fourth quarter of the year, hey, it's time for tax planning. Here are some of the things that we can do. Here's some of the things if you're contemplating, thinking about, if you're trying to sell a property, if you're trying to look at taking money out of your retirement account, you can get paid for projections. Here's your business, this, that, and the other, that you can explain to them the different things on why it's now the time to reach out to you to do that. Whatever you charge for that, then you can. And now again, with the inventive of AI, you can take a tax return, as long as you redact it, make sure you redact it properly, because if you redact it, sometimes the way the computers see it. So if you go to Adobe, and it's no different than if you took a piece of paper. So if I took a piece of paper, I'm trying to see, I don't have just a regular piece of paper here, but if I had a piece of paper that you're writing through or you're lining through, like you took a black Sharpie and you lined through it, then the problem is that sometimes you can actually see on that paper, but when you scan it, when you copy it, it's not there. So from a technology perspective, if you use the likes of Adobe, sometimes what happens is, if you can imagine that your document here is on the screen and you redact on top of it, the computer actually can still see what's behind it. So you have to do what's called a technique called flattening, which basically makes that redaction a permanent thing. So it doesn't see that. So make sure you redact things like names, socials, addresses, dates of birth, credit cards, bank information. If you have all of those things, maybe look at if your software offers the ability to do the asterisks for a lot of those different things and print that version. You can actually take those documents once they're redacted, upload them into ChatGPT, and then ask it, say, you're a world-class tax preparer, and you review this document, this tax return, and give me 10, 20 tax saving ideas, tax planning ideas, any kind of thing like that, or to review this return for accuracy. And it could help even be your reviewer for tax returns. But you can upload that information and it can give you a report. You can give it financials. Again, make sure you redact or remove the company name or any types of references in terms of accounts with, they have in your balance sheet profit loss, it has a client name in there somewhere in there. Just make sure you get rid of those types of things and upload it, and then use those tools that these are going to give you opportunities to sell better services to your clients. And on top of that, make sure you've got your proper 7216 consent forms, which again, another topic for another day, but that lets you then go data mine and market to your clients for other services that you offer. So hopefully with that, you find that all of this information helpful. Please feel free to reach out to me and let me know if there's either a topic that you would like me to discuss further, or you just have something that you've used that I've said that will helped you out. I love to hear the good stories that work out. I hear from my members all the time because I'm talking to them in terms of what they're doing in terms of the Tax Resolution Academy. And otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. So with that, Dan Henn, CPA, CTR, have a nice day. Thank you for listening to our show. We hope you received some valuable information to help you in your tax practice. The IRS Whisperer is sponsored by the Tax Resolution Academy. If you have any questions you'd like to see addressed on the show or comments to help us make it better, please reach out to us on social media. Follow us or download our shows on your favorite podcast app. Tune in to our next episode where we'll give you some more exciting information to help you grow your practice.